This is the Janine Pirro Show. Now, here's Judge Janine Pirro.
Welcome back to the Judge Janine Tunnel to Towers Foundation Show. Joining us now is a former press secretary for President Donald Trump, Hogan Gidley. He's also a comms advisor for the America First Policy Institute and many of the big guns in government. And this morning, I want to welcome Hogan Gidley, our friend that you've seen on Fox News and you've heard on this show before, to talk about Kamala Harris's vice presidential pick, Tim Walz. And, you know, there's a lot of talk right now about Tim Walz and the fact that he promotes the fact that he was in the National Guard for 24 years. But there's a couple of sticking points. One, Hogan Gidley, is the fact that he said that, he was a commander sergeant major. And there are people who say he really isn't entitled to carry that particular title because he ended up retiring or quitting, according to some of his own, in his own battalion, before the time required that allows him to carry that title of Commander Sergeant Major. What say you?
Yeah, a lot of problems with Governor Walz, no question. This is one of them, and I've heard a lot of people in the military who are angry and upset that Tim lied about his record. He when he talks about gun control, for example, he uses his time in quote unquote war to describe the weapons. The problem is he wasn't in war. He got out before he was deployed to Iraq. That's a problem. He's lied about his DUI when he got pulled over for that.
I love that.
Basically.
Okay, tell us what he said.
Yeah, he basically tried to pretend as though he were deaf and has a balance problem. That's why he couldn't walk. And I was like, yeah, you got a balance problem, all right. You had too much to drink. But nonetheless, this is a problem in his past that will be litigated in the present. And in addition to that, more recently, he's just the most radical pick, making this, again, the most radical ticket. And Kamala Harris has tried to tell everybody she's moderating. Now, remember, she didn't say this on the record. She uses surrogates for her campaign that won't go on the record but kind of slide it over to reporters. We call that on background or off the record. They tell them things. She's never said she moderated and changed all the positions she's had for the entirety of her political career, up to and including 3 weeks ago. Now she's changed all of her positions. We're expected to believe that. And you thought, all right, the exclamation point on that sentence is going to be picking someone who's a self-proclaimed moderate like Shapiro from Pennsylvania. Nope. Yeah. She went full-on radical. Her entire wish list of radical ideology, from open borders to defunding the police to transing our kids, all of those things are embodied in a governor named Tim Walz, who did all of the things she wants to do. So this is clearly the most radical ticket. And this whole notion built up by the press that he's folksy and that he relates to small-town America, how many people in a small-town, Judge, want their tax dollars going to pay for free college tuition for illegals?
Okay.
Yeah. To give them free health care. What small town thinks that's okay?
Well, see, here's the thing. I mean, if you want to talk about, hard politics, they said, well, he's going to help with, the Rust Belt and small town America. When the truth is, when he ran in Minnesota, he didn't get any of the rural areas.
Right.
Just he ran the same campaign and the same numbers that Joe Biden did. He didn't go beyond the Democrat base. And they keep saying this guy is Mr. Rural America. He's going to attract people. But I want to backtrack a little bit. I don't want to let him off the hook with this military thing, because he literally abandoned his battalion before they were deployed to Iraq. And, they can say, and Kamala Harris's response through one of her surrogates was, well, we're grateful for anyone who serves in the military. But the truth is, it was on the eve of their being deployed to Iraq that this guy jumped ship. And he ends up actually, being criticized by men in his battalion. And apparently one lost his life. There was another one who was maimed. And he then runs on the ticket of being an anti-war politician. So he's against the war in Iraq. He jumped ship right before Iraq. He does it right before he's supposed to be deployed. And he does it in a way that is embarrassing to those people who are in the military. You know, you and I are not in the military, but in the military world, what he did is a disgrace. And, you know, normal Americans don't really get it. But, you know, there's a reason that there is a federal crime if you lie about your military service. I mean, they take this stuff very seriously. And then when he comes out and he says, you know, we shouldn't have weapons of war on the street like the weapons of war that I carried when I was in war. Are you kidding? You were never in war. You were never in the theater of combat. Never. He lied about that as well. And so this guy is a BSer from day one and trying to promote himself. The campaign promoting him as a rural guy. He's promoting himself as a military guy. And in the end, he's none of those things.
No question. And it's so part and parcel with that entire campaign, trying to have it not just both ways, but three different ways in a lot of areas. You just pointed to it. So he's against the war, but he touts his military service, but he didn't serve. But he did serve, but he left right before.
And when he did serve, he carried a weapon of war.
Yeah, he carried a weapon of war. Kamala Harris goes on stage and says, hey, you know what? If I'm elected president, I'm going to work to lower prices on day one and fix inflation. Yeah, only but only if you'd had a position of power from which to do that for the last 4 years, right? So she's running and saying the economy is getting better. Oh, I got to fix the economy. Oh, the border numbers are better, but hey, I wasn't borders or I don't have anything to do with it, but we got to fix the border too. You caused all of these problems. The same thing applies to this situation with Governor Walz. He is doing this to himself because, like most politicians, he wants to be all things to all people, and he's trying to have it every which way, but he can. In addition, I have to say this. I know you're going to talk about this in other segments too.
Yeah.
I'm so sick and tired of the media saying, why are you so upset that Kamala hasn't answered questions? Why are you upset? This is someone who didn't receive a single vote, that basically participated in a coup that covered up Joe Biden's horrible mental and physical decline, didn't get a single vote, got to the top of the ticket, and you don't have a single question. And the only question she was asked when she gave that word salad on the tarmac after they returned those hostages, the first question, the only question you could hear shouted out was, hey, are you going to meet with the hostages?
Yeah.
That's it? That's your question? So I'm just telling you, I remember when D.C. melted down and the Democrats had a field day with a few votes they had to cast to get McCarthy in place and then a few more votes to get Johnson in place. And this just complete taking down of a sitting president it took the media 3 weeks. That's how powerful they are. 3 weeks to unseat a sitting president of the United States after holding office for half of a century. And on top of that, telling us the same woman, Kamala Harris, that the media themselves wanted off the ticket 3 weeks ago, is now trying to tell us she's the best vice president and the best potential president in the history of this country. It's insane.
All right, let me ask you a question. Why her numbers, given the fact that she was the most unpopular vice president in history? No one can deny that. The numbers are clear. How in a matter of a couple of weeks does she catapult to where she is now?
But that's the point. You know the answer.
Yeah, I do.
I can't believe she's not up by 10 in every swing state, considering what the media has done for her.
Yep.
I mean, don't forget, we all laugh at the media and their outlets like your own that really holds their feet to the fire and asks all politicians of every stripe tough questions. But writ large, that mainstream media is one of the most powerful instruments for the Democrat Party. You have seen this time and time again. It's the same media that told us Russia collusion was real and that the Hunter Biden laptop and the Ashley Biden diary were fake. And behind the scenes, Joe Biden was really doing triathlons. I mean, that's how strong he is, really, behind the scenes. The same media that told us Kamala Harris is terrible, now telling us Kamala Harris is good, they are going to cover her in glowing press. They're going to bubble wrap her. And a reporter the other day told me, Judge, they said, there's no precedent for them not asking her questions. How is this happening? I said, no precedent. Go back to 2020. They didn't ask Biden. They let him run a campaign from the basement, for heaven's sakes. You don't. And one more point. It's not a hatred for Trump or a bias, although it's true. It's more than that this time.
It's
an investment into their future. They got exposed in that Biden debate, right, for covering for him. Now they're all in on Kamala. And if they ask her questions off script, then they'll be exposed again for propping up someone that they knew the whole time couldn't handle this job.
Well, they knew the whole time she couldn't handle it. And then when she comes in and says on day one, inflation's going to be my number one priority, then you have to say, well, where the hell have you been? You were in a position of power. You're the one who was touting Bidenomics. You said on 6 different occasions, Bidenomics, it's great. It's working. She said it over and over again. Nobody knows what the hell it was, except the numbers were horrible. And in the end, she's saying this is a great thing for America. And by the way, do you remember they were calling her Mamala? Can we call you Mamala? Yeah. Well, where was Mamala when we had the baby formula shortage? She didn't even show her face. She wasn't anywhere for the working women who were running around from one store to another, including my daughter, saying, where am I going to get formula for my baby? I mean, it is outrageous to be in this position, but that's, Go ahead.
Where was Mamala when these women are being raped and murdered by illegal aliens? Where's Mamala on that one too? I mean, she has failed at every single thing she's tried to do.
Anyway, Hogan Gidley, thanks so much for joining us this morning on the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation show. And now that you're fired up, go work out. Thanks, Hogan.
Thanks, Judge. God
Take
bless.
care. Bye-bye. And never forget, that's a promise we made on 9/11. Join the Tunnel to Towers Foundation at T2T.org and donate $11 a month. It's a great organization. The money goes to the people who are intended to receive it. It doesn't go for administrative costs. So coming up next, we will hear from Joe Concha. And Joe Concha, of course, is a political satirist as well as a Fox News personality, and he's a pretty funny guy. Stay with us.